Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Mark Vine Show, and thank you for joining us. If you have not already subscribed to the show, go ahead and give us a follow. Check out the Facebook page, leave us a comment, and reach out to us with any topics or opinions or concerns that you have, especially if you are a liberal. Because I want to tell you, I have Frank Runles joining me again today, and we're going to be talking about the Mueller team and really just the general state of America today. And we are under 50 days to the election. And if you have a set of eyes and a set of ears and half a brain, you can see that there is absolutely no question where you need to vote today. And if this incident out in with the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Office does not tell you everything you need to know about what we are doing to the police and law enforcement, then you have absolutely lost your mind. We are at a critical state right now. And not only do we have our local law enforcement under attack, and this is an absolute assault on our local law enforcement, but if that's not enough, we just had this report of the Mueller team wiping their phones clean. And so today I have Frank Runles with me, and we're gonna kick off with that topic right now. And Frank and I are both, if you're not already aware, retired supervisory special agents in the FBI, and so we might know a little thing or two about this and the unreality of what you're being told in the media and why this is a big deal. So Frank, thanks for joining us.
Hey, good to be back.
All right. So, Frank, as you know about this story, that the phones on Mueller's team, and it seems like everybody on that team, just oopsies, accidentally wiped their phone clean. Tell me a little bit about that, and tell me your thoughts on this latest report.
Well, I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous that they think anyone would believe that they could wipe clean 29 phones by accident. It's considering you have to take numerous steps to go through the process of wiping a phone clean, and you have to do them in a certain sequence. And the fact that happened 29 different times, all by coincidence and accident, is pretty astronomical. You've got a much better chance of winning the Powerball than you do of having that happen. I mean, it's ridiculous.
In fact, not only is it ridiculous, but I'll go a step further and say that it's impossible. Not damn near impossible, but impossible to do that. Do you agree?
Yeah, it's statistically impossible.
Yeah, so
the big question comes down, that I said the big question comes down is, when Mueller was the white knight that was going to save the day, he was impeachable. His word was his bond, and no one could say a word about him because, my God, you're a dirty dog, communist, un-American person if you said anything about Bob Mueller. And he's turning out, I think the public is starting to see the Bob Mueller that you, I, and every FBI agent knew during his tenure. He was not a good cat then. He's not a good cat now.
No, and what people need to understand is that when you're an FBI agent, you're an active duty FBI agent, you are not allowed to speak out. You're not allowed to express. I mean, everybody has their opinions, don't get me wrong, but you're not allowed to express your opinions openly and publicly. Now, when we were sold this bill of goods that he was this white knight and this person that could do no wrong, and I used to see news reports that he had the support of FBI agents and he was well liked. That is absolutely not the case. And in fact, I can tell you from my own personal experience, I didn't know an FBI agent that liked Bob Mueller. and I mean, I literally did not know one that liked or respected him. We called it his tenure in the FBI was known within the FBI as the Reign of Terror. And I remember when President Obama extended him for 2 years, because just so our listeners know that the FBI directors today are limited to a 10-year term limit. And there was a special exception made for Bob Mueller. And I distinctly remember the day that the email went out to all the employees saying that he was going to be extended for another 2 years, and it was a collective sigh. I mean, that was a very, very sad day within the FBI. So this reputation of being the white knight, so to speak, and being this hero is outside of the Bureau. It was never inside of the Bureau, because we all knew what a tyrant the man was, and that seems to have permeated the whole Mueller team in this Russia investigation. And these people are getting away with quote unquote murder. I don't mean literal murder, but I mean they're getting away with very, 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 very bad deeds that no one else would be allowed to get away with. And in fact, if we were to reverse the roles, if this was not an investigation of President Trump, okay, let's reverse it around. Let's say it was an investigation of Hillary Clinton and Mueller had been a Republican. Now, I know people say he's a Republican. He's not really. But let's say that this was an investigation of Hillary Clinton, and there was an Inspector General report, and Durham was investigating this. And this team came up with wiped phones. What do you think the public reaction to that would have been? The Democrats' reaction to that, Frank?
Oh, well, it'd be obviously it'd be completely different. The one thing that everyone that's listening to this needs to understand is when you have a bureau assigned telephone, meaning the bureau has given you this telephone, they have got certain security measures placed on this phone so it can't be compromised, and you have to safeguard it. You are told, you have to sign a document, you are told that everything that's on that phone is discoverable, and everything on that phone is government property. It's not your property, it doesn't belong to you, you're using it for your job, but you're not allowed to keep this phone. So the people that tell you this and develop these policies are the people in the Office of General Counsel, the place where Lisa Page worked. That was her outfit. So when they talk about, this is accident and, it really wasn't that big a deal, when the media talks about that, remember, this whole thing is indicative of how shoddy that whole operation was run.
Yeah, it certainly was. And not only shoddy, but corrupt. I mean, now what's going to happen in this, and you and I were in law enforcement to know that this is going to be something that's going to have to be proven in the future, because we always have to show criminal intent. Now, and these are all attorneys, so they're going to work pretty hard to cover this up and say, oopsies, this was a mistake. We put in too many passwords, and then the phone shut down, and it wiped it clean. That's what they're going to say, and they know inherently that it's going to be very, very difficult to prove intent in this particular case. That's the argument they're going to have. So, what do you have to say about disproving that?
Well, what their defense is, they're using the "I'm stupid" defense, and that's always a viable defense, especially with a government employee. To say, "Well, I was just so stupid, I by accident did that." The unfortunate thing is this, though. How many bureau phones have you had during your career? I've had at least 5. Okay.
I would say that half a dozen. Yeah.
Right. How many of them, when you turned it in, did you wipe clean?
I'll be honest with you, Frank. I wouldn't know how to wipe it clean. If you had told me to wipe it clean, I don't know that I would have known how to do that.
Right. Same here. Never did. Why? Because the people that handle the phones don't want you to, because you might lose other data and it might compromise security measures and all that stuff. All they want you to do is turn in your old phone. You get issued a new phone. They wipe it clean. So for these guys, we wiped it clean. Yeah. Oh, yeah. First, it can't be done by accident that easily, because there's a certain amount of steps you have to follow. And just putting in your wrong password 3 times locks the phone, but it doesn't wipe it clean. It locks the phone, just like your computer. I mean, if you lock yourself out of your computer with a password, it doesn't wipe out your hard drive, does it? Of course not. It's all the information is still there.
No,
you
and
just
when I
gotta
read
reset
that,
the password.
honestly, when I read that they put in their password too many times and it wiped it clean, I don't know about you, but I've forgotten my password and put it in too many times, a number of times, and I didn't lose my data. So this is a first to me. This is the first time I've ever seen where putting in your password too many times erases your phone. That's yeah. That's the first time I heard that.
Yeah, you have to go into and actually go into the settings and set it to factory settings and then have to put in your password a number of times to make that even occur. So, I mean, those are just the facts. So, why would you go into settings and put it at factory setting and then put in your password 2 or 3 times by accident? What were you like? I mean, if this is Joe Biden, maybe, you know what I mean? Because he doesn't know half the time what's going on. But I mean, these guys are supposed to be cogent. So, yeah, it's a sham, as everything else with this whole thing is a sham.
And the same exact thing happened to 29 people. Never in my career did I see that in the FBI.
But the sad thing is probably nothing will ever come of this.
Now, why do you say that?
I don't think. I don't think that. I think the rules have changed. I think the rules have changed, and no one said it out loud. But it's all a tacit understanding that the rules have changed, and certain people are going to be allowed to get away with certain things that other people wouldn't be allowed to get away with. And if you're on the outs, something like this would be a death knell. If you're on the inside, this is sort of just like, oh no, it was just a pure accident. No, and everybody's like, oh, okay, if you say it's an accident, that's why. I'm so jaded on the whole judicial system we got going on in the United States that I have very little faith that anything's going to happen to any of them, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and and that's the real concern that I have, because I agree with you to a large extent. And when you look at the Department of Justice, which is what this was, the Department of Justice investigation, and you have people that are doing this and getting away with this, I mean, with doing things that are absolutely laughable. I mean, this is almost reminiscent of a Saturday Night Live skit, that it's so ridiculous that it happened. And then you juxtapose that with what's happening with our police officers and being under attack, and citizens celebrating the fact that these officers were shot in the face this last week. So we're attacking it, law enforcement at the street level. We're not supporting our police officers. I mean, you can't take any physical. I mean, we've gotten to the point to where any incident, no matter how justifiable, if it is a white police officer and a black person, it does not matter how justified it is now called out as being a racial incident. So you got that, and then you got it at the highest levels at the Department of Justice, and we have this going on. It makes you wonder. I mean, we are completely out of control in our judicial system right now, completely out of control. And as we approach this election, I think our listeners have to ask themselves, well, these listeners know the answer to this, but who is supporting who? When you watch these riots, when you watch people burning cities down, when you watch these attacks, who the hell do you think these people are going to vote for? If they vote at all, who do you think? You think they're voting for Trump? I mean, really?
Yeah, of course not.
This is a really scary time that we are living in. And, my question is, when is this going to end? And how do we get it to end? Because we cannot go on living like this. What are your thoughts on that, Frank?
Well, I think we've jumped the shark. We've crossed the Rubicon, because I don't know that we can ever turn a lot of this back. I think that we're fulfilling what Obama said he wanted to do. He wanted to fundamentally transform America, and he has. He has. I mean, you think any of this would be going on if the 8 years of Obama hadn't have taken place?
No, not at all.
And the thing is you have Republicans that are just as bad as the Democrats. Marco Rubio joined with Mark Warner on the Senate Intelligence Committee to block subpoenas for the cell phone records and information about this Crossfire Hurricane fiasco. Senator Johnson from Wisconsin wanted subpoenas. Marco Rubio and Warner blocked that. Now, Marco Rubio is a supposed Republican. You know what? And in my opinion, this is just my opinion. I have no evidence of this. I wouldn't be surprised that he's blocking this, because I wouldn't be surprised that Marco Rubio doesn't have dirty fingers in this thing. You know, I think there's a lot of Republicans that may have some dirty fingers in this whole Russian collusion hoax that they don't want to see the light of day. You know, they wouldn't mind if it was all Democrats, but there's some guys like, honestly, I don't have a whole lot of faith in Graham. I think he wanted to be in charge of the Senate Judiciary Committee, because then if you're in charge of it, you can control what information gets out and what doesn't. He was way too close to McCain, and McCain was the first guy to start peddling that dossier. You don't think that he knew about it? Of course he did. You don't think? I think Rubio was involved with it too. And so the forces are arrayed against, you know what I mean, Trump and the law and order and doing the right thing. You know, Christopher Wray, the director of the FBI, he's slow walking and everything and trying to, you know, withhold information. He's supposed to be the good guy, right? Mm-hmm. He doesn't look like a good guy. I mean, he looks like a guy that's trying to cover, you know, do some CYA for his old buddies, you know, Comey and Mueller, who he worked with, I might remind everyone. So, I mean, you know, that's why I just don't have a lot of faith. You know, when they keep talking about a Durham report, if he issues a report, to me, that's tantamount to saying that we're not indicting anyone, because I've never, in 20-some years of working criminal matters, ever had a U.S. attorney issue a report prior to an indictment. If they issue a report, that means that there's no indictment. You know, you don't report that, hey, we're going to do something. You just do it. So, you know, they keep talking about this report. I don't have a lot of faith, to be honest with you.
Oh, God. Well, you know, I hope you're wrong. I mean, on a lot of levels, I agree with you, but I'm hoping that you're wrong about that, because that's not something that we can have. And no. This is just a scary time right now. It really is. And, you know, you got to wonder what's going to happen after the elections. And I think that, you know, the American people need to brace themselves for what's going to happen post-election, whether Biden wins or whether Trump wins, because these people are not going to stop. If you think about it, it's been one scandal after another scandal. And you notice how when one scandal comes up and they can't prove it, for example, the impeachment, it goes away. And then, you know, the big thing was the Mueller report. The Mueller report has disappeared. Nobody talks about the Mueller report anymore. Then it's the impeachment. Okay, then that happened. When the hell was the last time you've heard anybody talk about impeachment? Then it was Ukraine, and then nobody talks about that anymore. Then when, you know, Kavanaugh was being nominated to the Supreme Court, that was just, you know, we were being led to believe that if this guy gets on the Supreme Court, we're going to be walking over the bodies of dead women and to get to Capitol Hill. That's how tragic this is going to be. Well, nobody talks about that anymore. It's just one thing after another, and that's going to continue on after November. And, you know, at some point, this has got to stop. And not to mention, you know, the cities, which are still burning down, and there's still riots that are going on. You know, so I'm hoping that the Trump administration, once this is done, and I'm confident that he's going to win, by the way, puts an end to all this crap, because it really needs to stop. It just needs to stop. And we need to make it stop.
Well, I mean, just look at Peter Strzok. He's out there, that lunatic, you know, pimping his book. But he's doing it in such a way. I mean, he's completely dishonest about it. Because anytime he gets on TV, he talks about you know, Russians have leverage on Trump and all this stuff. But he never provides any evidence, any proof, any details, because there are none. I mean, it would be sort of like me saying, you know, I know that Peter Strzok gives every appearance of being a pedophile. I mean, I've worked those cases for a lot of years. I've done a lot of kiddie porn cases. He fits the profile. He looks like the guy. He acts like the guy. He's got the same narcissistic personality. I can say that. Now, I'm not saying he is, but if I keep saying it often enough in a public forum, at some point people are going to say, but here's the bigger issue. He's doing this because I don't think he's worried that he's going to be indicted. I don't think he's worried that anything's going to happen to him because he doesn't have any contrition or any compulsion about just bald-faced lying. And I think he thinks he's going to get away with it because it's D.C. It's a D.C. circuit. Do you think they never charged Andy McCabe with lying to the FBI? But look at Roger Stone and Manafort and all those guys. They're all doing hard time. Andy McCabe, he's got a speaking gig at CNN. I think there's two sets of rules, and it's those guys get their set and we get ours.
Yeah, it's amazing. The only people that are, and I have no problem with holding people to standards and going after people that break the law. I have no problem with that. But we need to go after everybody that breaks the law. That includes Hillary Clinton, that includes Peter Strzok, that includes Andy McCabe, and it includes James Comey. And let's do it. But people are really getting fatigued with this, and they're becoming disenchanted with the whole system when they just see people, one person after another, get away with this stuff. And it's got to come to an end. And I'm hoping after November it will, because it's just we can't maintain this. We just can't.
Well, I can tell you there's two certainties that's going to happen November 3rd. Two certainties. No matter how big a blowout it is for Trump, say he could win 49 out of 50 states. They're never going to concede. They've already said that. And they are going to drag this out and try to count votes and manufacture votes until they can steal the election. Now, they might not be able to steal the election, but I guarantee you they're going to try, and they're not going to concede. Those are givens. And I only say that because only every other Democrat is on TV saying, yeah, that's our plan. That's our plan. Our plan is to try to rig the election after the election, because they keep saying it may appear that Trump overwhelmingly won on November 3rd, but he will lose in a few weeks after that due to mail-in votes. Translation, we got truckloads of votes already set up that we're going to dump. Then, that's going to, they've said it. You got to take people at their word and listen to what they tell you. They're telling us. They're all telling us this. And for anybody to think, I think we got a shot. No, these are the two certainties. The uncertainty is how will Trump and the Trump supporters react to when this happens? That's the real question. And how much force is going to be met by force? Because people are getting pretty sick of this, and they're pretty much at the end of their fuse. And it ain't going to take a whole lot that you're going to have some red-blooded Americans that own a whole lot of guns saying, something, I'm just about done with your shit. You coming into my neighborhood and start screwing with my family and my house, my home, you might find that that dog has a little bit of a bite.
Yeah, it makes you wonder, and every time that you think that you've seen it all in this last year, something else comes up, and we have something bigger, we have something better, we have something more ridiculous. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens over the next year. But folks, that we've got this thing with the Mueller team. And this blatant disregard for, basically what they did was they thumbed their nose at the Justice Department, because what we didn't mention so far is that a lot of people don't realize that there's a lot of investigations that are going on behind the scenes. And there was a House committee that had subpoenaed these phones. That's why these phones even came up. And they were asked, the Mueller team was asked to turn these phones over. And after receiving a subpoena to turn the phones over, that's when all 29 came up wiped clean. And that's a blatant, that's tampering with evidence. and that needs to be dealt with, because Frank, you would have to deal with that. You would be punished for that, and I would be punished for that. And these people cannot have a different standard. And it's amazing how that these phones were perfectly fine until they received a subpoena to turn them over, and then they came up clean. So we cannot have this. Cannot have that. So
no. I mean, it's slow unraveling of our civil society in front of our eyes.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Frank, for joining us here today on the Mark Fine Show. Give us a follow, give us a like, and leave some comments on the Facebook site, and I'd love to chat with you. Also, if you've not had a chance to listen to Frank's podcast, his new podcast that he's put out called Lies People Tell, it is really good, and it covers, how do you know that people are lying to you, statement analysis, and being able to figure out, how people are lying to you. And it can be used for law enforcement. It can be used for work situations. It can even be used for family situations. You can figure out when your spouse is lying to you, your kids are lying to you. It has a lot of uses. So really, really good stuff. And thanks again, Frank, for joining us.
All right. Thanks for having me.